Wonder Woman 1984 is one of the most fascinatingly broken movies I've seen in a long time, and to say nothing of it being a bad sequel to the pretty good original is a whole other matter entirely. If you guys were expecting this to be a rebound from Birds of Prey, which was a stumble from their good streak that started from Aquaman and then continued on with Shazam and Joker, you're also going to be really disappointed. I'm not going to spend too much time non-spoiler talking about this film because its specifics are necessary to talk about to properly explain why it doesn't work on any level whatsoever. So in short, I'll just say this. Wonder Woman 1984 isn't really for anybody. If you're a fan of the first movie, you're going to be really disappointed by this one. If you're someone who's looking for a so bad it becomes funny or at least good kind of movie, you're still gonna be disappointed because while this movie definitely has quite a few instances of holy shit, this is unintentionally really, really funny, there's also substantial stretches of time that are just really boring and had no business being left in the film as is. Honestly, the only people who should watch Wonder Woman 1984 are people who are interested in the writing process like I am, trying to figure out what someone was going for during the script writing process, what the themes they were going for, how did they execute it well, how did they execute it badly, and Wonder Woman 1984 is one of the best examples I would cite of how a bad script can sink any potential a movie could have had whatsoever. So now we're going on to the spoiler section. The plot of Wonder Woman 1984 is a mess. I don't even know where to start because the opening of the movie is a pointless 10-minute long recap of Wonder Woman's origin that has this tournament that goes on and on and on for literally 10 minutes. I'm not exaggerating that. I actually watched the timestamp to be able to properly say the time allotted to it. And this is the first opening of the movie. And then the movie has another 10-minute opening where Wonder Woman stops a lame jewelry store robbery in a mall. If you've been reading the news concerning this movie, you'll know that Warner Brothers told Jenkins to cut one of the openings out because having two of them is pointless, and of course Jenkins, rejecting any common fucking sense in the editing and or screenwriting process, told them to F off. And then through some circumstances, a magic rock gets in the possession of Cheetah, Wonder Woman meets Cheetah, and then Maxwell Lord finds out about the rock grants wishes, Maxwell Lord uses it for his nefarious schemes, Cheetah gets a wish, Diana gets a wish, Diana's wish gets Steve Trevor back, the movie dicks around for another hour until we get another action sequence, and then Maxwell Lord decides to go fucking crazy to destroy the whole world. And if this sounds really random and aimless the way I describe it, that's kind of because the plot of the movie is random and aimless a lot of the time. Many people have compared this to Superman 2, a movie where the action and the superheroics isn't really the focus, it's the dynamic between the main character and their love interest. And on paper, that's not a bad idea because the dynamic between Steve and Diana in the first movie was exceptional. The writing was there to support it and the actors had natural chemistry. In fact, that relationship was so good, it's the reason why they tried to recapture that magic again. On a premise level, I just like them bringing back Steve Trevor because the bittersweet element of what could have been in their relationship had outside circumstances not screw them over is one of the things that makes it interesting on a Wonder Woman 1 rewatch. And so bringing them back together here just doesn't work. I don't like it from a narrative standpoint already, but if the movie had as good a writing for their banter and dynamics as the first movie had, I might have been able to at least forgive it on that front. Unfortunately, the movie completely fucks over any kind of appeal their relationship might have for the duration of the runtime by the means they choose to bring Steve Trevor back. This is probably one of the two things that I would love to ask Patty Jenkins if I ever get the opportunity, just to ask her, why the fuck did you choose to do it this way? When I heard that Steve Trevor comes back, I assumed it was going to be like Dragon Ball logic, where Diana's going to make a wish, Steve Trevor is going to just pop in somewhere, maybe he's going to be like a few seconds before he died, he's going to have like the World War I gear, he's going to be really confused and freaked out, Diana's going to find him, she's going to explain to him what happened, and for a while we're gonna think everything is fine, there are no strings attached. But no, that's not how it works. Instead, Steve Trevor literally takes over another person's body. Another person who already had his face, his own life, his own voice, his own identity, his own existence got deleted in favor of Steve Trevor, and Diana knows this. And she does nothing about it. She does not find it fucking weird in the least that someone else lost their entire identity so that her boyfriend can come back to life. In an ideal world, you would have just done what Dragon Ball does. Just have the deceased person come back and have some kind of other monkey's paw effect happen. And I'm going to talk about that in a second, by the way. Or if you really must include the whole Steve Trevor takes over someone's body, why not keep Diana ignorant of this? Why not make Diana think that this is a perfect wish that has no negative consequences? And then later on in the movie, she figures out, holy shit, you're in someone else's body. We can't keep doing this. It would still be really weird, unnecessarily so, but it could have worked at least as a really dark twist to showcase the cost of the wish. And speaking of the monkey's paw, when Steve Trevor takes over someone else's body, I assumed that was the monkey's paw effect, in a way of someone else must lose their life so that a dead person can get another shot at life. But it's not. The monkey's paw also takes away Diana's powers, making her weaker for some reason. The whole wish-granting device is so whatever the fuck when it comes to its own rules that the movie just does whatever it wants with it. And it's really hard to care about something like that because, well, for one, it's a literal magic wish-granting rock, but to be fair, Marvel has made entire movies based around stuff like that. And also the magic wish-granting rock just does whatever the script needs it to from moment to moment. So yeah, Steve and Diana absolutely does not work. Not only do they not have any kind of cool or interesting interactions after he comes back, but the aforementioned circumstances of his resurrection are just big, persistent, what the fuck in every scene they're together in. There's almost nothing to say about Cheetah, for example. She's just Electro from The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Kristen Wiig plays what she's given well, but Cheetah by herself is already a really shitty character. Even in the comics, she's never been interesting or threatening. She's never risen to the levels of Lex Luthor or Joker, and she's supposed to be Wonder Woman's arch nemesis. And then they make her even lamer in this movie by turning him into an Electro. It's really bizarre. They had carte blanche to do whatever they wanted with this character, to reinvent her in a way that would have made her not only appealing to general audiences, but also cool to fans of the comics. Even a lot of comic readers like myself really don't like Cheetah, and they had a golden opportunity to fix that. And they make her lamer than ever in this movie. It's fucking amazing. So before I get to Maxwell Lord, who is possibly the best and simultaneously worst thing in the movie, I want to go over a few other things. First is the soundtrack. So when I heard that this movie was going to be in the 1980s, I assumed that it was going to be a heavy synthwave kind of soundtrack. In fact, one of the trailers famously had a really catchy song that was both epic and synth at the same time. And it was also going to be done by Hans Zimmer, who is no stranger to using synth elements in his soundtrack. But no, this is easily Hans Zimmer's worst effort so far. It is so thoroughly bland and forgettable. They barely use the excellent Wonder Woman theme. And the soundtrack is so piss poor that they have to use Batman's A Beautiful Lie from BVS in the finale of a Wonder Woman movie to serve as the backdrop of the big speech at the end. The action sequences are all thoroughly boring. The whole chase scene in Egypt is really lame because the lighting is off and it just looks so fake. Whenever Diana does anything, all the CG in the movie feels very weightless, like Wonder Woman is just gliding constantly through the air. Her proportions are off. The first movie was much better when it came to that kind of stuff because the movie was better at using things like lighting and the way it frames certain shots to make them look more convincing than they actually were, and none of that kind of artistry, none of that technique with camera movement or placement or lighting is present anywhere in the action sequences. They're all boring, they're all lame, and they're all incredibly forgettable. And now we come to Maxwell Lord. Like I said, Pedro Pascal is simultaneously the best and worst thing about this movie, because I think what Pedro Pascal does with Maxwell Lord is what the entire movie was going for, but failed miserably at. Maxwell Lord is a completely ridiculous character. He is a cartoon guy, just like everybody else in the movie is, except even when Pedro Pascal has his moments of just sheer ridiculousness, when the movie slows down and actually demands him to showcase some actual humanity to make you empathize or sympathize with him, Pedro Pascal pulls it the fuck off. If there's anyone in this menagerie of either boring assholes or cartoon caricatures who has humanity in the entire movie, it is easily Maxwell Lord. If the entire movie was like that, ridiculousness with genuine heart at the center of it, I think the entire film would have been much more successful, but unfortunately Maxwell Lord is the only diamond in this shit heap. And even then, it is a flawed diamond, because this movie is called Wonder Woman 1984. You would assume from that title that something from 1984 would inform the plot. It absolutely doesn't. In fact, a big character thing with Maxwell Lord would have made far more sense if it was set in the modern day and not in the 1980s. And it's such a missed opportunity because in the comic books, Maxwell Lord as a supervillain took over a fucking satellite called Brother Eye, a big surveillance network made by Batman to spy on metahumans and superheroes and supervillains across the entire planet, and even potential superhumans. And Maxwell Lord takes this over and uses it as part of his evil schemes. So why the fuck does a movie with Maxwell Lord in it called Wonder Woman 1984 not give him a satellite called Brother fucking Eye? Why does it not do anything with the 1984 name? It's literally pointless. And before someone tells me, well, Ivan, these are Hollywood execs, these guys don't know the comics, they don't read the comics, they probably just picked Maxwell Lord because he's kind of like Lex Luthor, I guess, and they needed some guy like him as the villain for the movie. And in 99.9% of instances, I would actually give this kind of defense some kind of validity, except Geoff Johns, the person who made Maxwell Lord a villain in Infinite Crisis, who had him hijack Brother fucking Eye and do all the stuff that I just mentioned, is one of the writers for Wonder Woman 1984. Are you really gonna tell me that never, during the entire script writing process of this disaster area, he didn't tell anyone, well guys, this movie's called Wonder Woman 1984, why don't we give Maxwell Lord Brother Eye, which is a thing I did in the comics? I don't know, maybe he did and no one listened to him. Or maybe he's one of the monkeys at the typewriters who fucked this whole script over. It's really hard to say. I would not be surprised if we hear a bunch of horror stories about the production of Wonder Woman 1984. This movie was delayed a whole goddamn year and multiple times, and it even had many reshoots. Yes, this movie had reshoots, which implies to me that there was shit in this movie originally that no one wanted in it. And it's still this much of a mess. And yeah, just don't watch it. If you want a very simple course as to how you should never, ever, ever write a movie script, only then should you ever touch Wonder Woman 1984. Everybody else should steer far the fuck away from this one.